Welcome back, good people, to another episode of Sip the Tally Films. I'm your host, Coach Evans, and today we're going to talk about Todd Monken's interview on the lounge. Todd Monken sat down with Garrett Downing and Ryan Mink the other day to talk about the Baltimore Ravens, and he dropped a bunch of interesting nuggets on that interview. The interview was over an hour long. They dropped it early in the morning, and so I was watching it while I was getting ready for work, but I just not got a chance to kind of process it and break it down a little bit. So what I did was I pulled a few nuggets out of there that were important to me. And now there were a lot more that I didn't pull out, but because I didn't want to be here forever, we could have break down almost every question in this thing because I think a lot of it was real interesting. So these are the few nuggets that I pulled out. Welcome back to Sip the Tally Films. I'm your host, Coach Evans. Let's check out Todd Monken on 2-on-2. Ready, break.
We always joke once, like we're talking about the draft or making predictions, like when we have a final answer, like that's when we say we're laminating it. Like it's laminated, it's done.
You can't tinker.
Like it's done. Like when is the play sheet laminated for a Sunday game? Like when is it locked and loaded? It's laminated, ready to go.
Saturday.
Okay.
Saturday.
So it'll be Saturday.
I'll take it out of the
A
waistband.
little
at this
bit
point.
different. Like home games, we have a little bit more time
Yeah.
before I have to leave the office because you still have time for the meetings that night. But if you're going to catch a plane, like I've got it done before, head home to pack or whatever you got to do to get to the plane. So, but most of the time, you're looking at Saturday or the day before the game.
Now, the reason I was shaking my head is you got an opportunity to interview a higher up and you come with something that's simple. Everybody knows, if you have any kind of football acumen, that the play sheet is finalized the day or the night before the game. Why waste time and a question on something so simple trying to be overly funny, maybe? But you should have dove right in and got to the meat and potatoes of the situation. That was to me a terrible lead in, a failed joke because it was over hyped, overused, or what. I mean, even like when I was still coaching, the best place to put my play sheet during practice or my practice sheet was in my pants. So it's nothing like that's not an innovative thing. It's nothing that other coaches don't do. You stick it in your pocket, you slide it in your pants, or you get a little pin and you have a little string on it where it's dangling beside you. This is a waste of time and a waste of a question, in my opinion.
I'm curious, how many plays do you put on the first, like script out? Is it 15? Is
12.
It's 12 plays. And do you, like, what's the percentage that you call those 12 plays in order? Is it 100? Like all of a sudden all of a sudden you're pinned back and you're at your own 8-yard line. You weren't expecting that. Do you still stick to the script?
No.
Okay.
No, situations, it's rundown calls. So those are rundown calls. Those are drive starters. Mm-hmm. So I don't have it to where no matter what, it's going right down the sequence.
Okay.
Now, I will say this. From my experience with doing this, and again, on a much, much smaller level than what Todd has, when you have your script, whether it be 10, 12, 15, whatever it is, you're really searching. You're really, and I'm not a fisherman, so I don't know if this analogy would fit, but like when you go fishing in a new place, you got to kind of figure out what lure to use that will get the fish to biting. And I think I'm using it right, and that's kind of what your script is. You got 12, 10, 15 plays, multiple formations. Now, if they work like you have them on the script, yes, you stick to it. But your script is you're really gathering information. And if you're here when we watch the live streams during the game, you always see, I normally say like middle of the first quarter toward the end of the first quarter, now we can play some real football because both teams are off the script. They've gathered their information. They have an idea of like what are you going to line up versus what formation I throw out there. And now the real cat and mouse game starts because they're going to adjust and you're going to adjust. And now it's up to the players who executes the best out of the adjustments. Now, coaching wise, if you make crappy adjustments, that can put your team at harm's way anyway. But as a coach, you need to make good adjustments, and the players need to understand the adjustments so they can execute them at a high level. So that's kind of where my take on the script. And if you don't know, it's really you just searching for information with that script. And if they happen to work, they work. Just like the Buffalo Bills game. Derrick Henry, they all knew that first play was going to be wham. And they, probably practiced it versus a certain look and knew it would work versus a certain look. They come out in whatever formation they was in. The Bills were in the look that they thought they were going to be in. And bam, 70 whatever yard touchdown from Derrick Henry, first play of the game. That's proper planning. That's a good script. That's good scouting by whoever put that together and said, hey, if they line up in this, we should run wham. It should be a big play.
That's a fact, because in the off season, John wants to know what's next. Like, what's next? We'll get our time off, but what's next? How do we get better? How do we what is going to be the next thing? What's next for Lamar? What's next for our players? So last year was the same way. As good off season as I've ever had in terms of how we're going to streamline what we do for Lamar, our players, our coaching staff, getting the most out of everybody. So that's a real broad stroke, but like you said, in a lot of ways, we've had this conversation, Coach and I, where you have to drill down to certain aspects of your offense, because if you just look at a broad stroke, you're like, well, we're good at this, we're good at that, good at that, good at that. Okay, how do you get better? Well, there's a lot of things that we can certainly get better at. Systematically, how we do it, how we practice, how we continue to, put Lamar in charge.
That last little statement meant a lot to me. But before I get to that, listening to how he talked about how they can get better, how can they streamline things, how can they do a better job of what they did. Keep in mind they had the number one offense, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the number one offense in the league. And so when you come to this channel, and even when we win games, there are some things that I point out that, hey, we need to do this better. We hate, such and such didn't hook right, or he didn't run this route right, and people seem to think that that's me being like negative or just being a bad fan, so to speak. I just look at it differently from chasing perfection, which is what you do as a coach. You want all 11 people on the offense to do their job right. And if they don't, then you point out what they did wrong, even if you have a successful play, because you want everybody to chase perfection. And if everybody's chasing perfection, you have an opportunity to be pretty darn good. So even if we beat somebody 48-6, and I point out some negative things with the O-line or with Lamar or with the receivers or with the running backs, that's not saying I'm a terrible fan and I just want to complain. That's just the coach in me looking at little finer things and wanting them to get it right. And that's the same thing he just said. He just said it more eloquently than I probably said on a time-to-time basis. They're chasing perfection. They're trying to streamline things, seeing what they can do better. And again, having number one offense last year, like he said, Harbs came in and said, what's next? What we going to do to add to that? Just like Lamar comes back every year and adds something to his game, what are we going to add to the offense to make it even more potent next year? Which is a great question a head coach should be asking his OC. What's next? That last little statement about Lamar, let me run it back so I can make sure it's in the top of my mind.
That's a fact. Is how we continue to, put Lamar in charge.
All right, putting Lamar in charge. and I love that. And some people take it differently than what I think he meant. What I think he means by putting Lamar in charge is giving him flexibility. Not necessarily say, hey, you go do X, Y, Z because you the guy. Giving him flexibility, giving him options, since he's the guy on the field, and trust as well. Flexibility, options, and trusting him to get them in the best play possible. That's what I think he means by putting him in charge, because I can call, let me see, gun left, 32 stick, which for the offense that I ran would be an RPO, an inside zone RPO with the number 3 guy running the stick route. They would read the linebacker close to trying to split the difference, and if he bites on the inside zone, you pull it and throw the little stick route, and if he kind of widens out to the stick route, you just hand the inside zone off and you got numbers. So simple stuff like that. But then the thing is, you give Lamar that option, and they come out 3 over 3, and they bring a safety down in the box. Well, he can check to some all the way to the right side on that solo side, like something to beat man, because you probably got 1-on-1 if they do all that. That's on a minuscule elementary, high school, junior high level of how you put your quarterback in charge. And I know they do it a lot on a bigger scale up there, and they have a lot more reads and whatnot. But that's just me trying to explain to you how I feel like they put more on his plate, and they trust him, and they give him options.
Guys are. And to me, if you're in the NFL, you're already elite. And I only compare my job based on where we're finished statistically in the areas that matter whether you win or not specifically to a play caller, if that makes sense. I don't look at it and go, because I think there are so many elite offensive coaches in our league. They should be. We're in the NFL. If you're not, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
But what helps that? Players help that, of course, and a great staff like we have. But at the end of the day, it's I want to be at the top in those categories, and the ones that why you win, that equate to how you win, but not per se comparing me to an individual, if that makes sense.
Now what I love about this is when the competitive nature of coaches come in. You want to be at the top of because what he's going to get paid off is offensive team stats, so to speak. And I like the fact that he emphasized the stats that help us win. So first you have to identify what stats you need to be good at that's going to translate into wins, whether that's time of possession, whether that's the turnover margin, whether that's third down percentage. You need to figure out what are the key stats that lead to wins. When you identify those key stats that lead to wins, then you need to put your team in position to dominate those areas of the game. And we dominate most of the stats that lead to wins during the regular season. Just during the playoffs, I think we lose the most crucial one, which is the turnover margin. Fault for it I think it was equally across the board for everybody. So I would say the fault is the offense, and not necessarily Todd, not necessarily Lamar, not necessarily John, not necessarily the center, not necessarily left tackle. It's the offense. Now, in situations like this, when you have hierarchy, blame falls. Head coach, offensive coordinator, quarterback. And pretty much the rest of the guys, unless they do something egregious, which did happen egregious this year, they don't get a lot of blame. Like the way we was on Mark this year, that normally don't happen when a team loses. That normally don't. That fault normally stops head coach, offensive coordinator, or quarterback. That normally where the fault stops at. In this case this year, a lot of people, pointed out Mark. It is what it is. But we had interceptions in the first half, so it is what it is. The blame is for everybody. But again, identify the stats that's going to help your team win and dominate them stats. And it's like we go on and on and on about how we dislike this and dislike that, and we never really praise the positive. Like we were in this crappy, run heavy, non-exciting offense with Giro. Bring Todd in, no matter how he got here, who cares at this point? And the offense is electric. We've seen long runs from Keaton Mitchell. We've seen long runs from Derrick Henry. We've seen highlight plays out of Lamar continuously. You see big plays out of the other guys that stepped up when given the opportunity. And have we got a Super Bowl? No. But offensively, our team has done a complete 180. And we were still one of the best offenses, but it was a different way. It was, I'm going to bludgeon you with this run, and only give you about 6 or 7 possessions in the game, and I'm not gonna mess up. And my defense was pretty good. Now we got an offense that if we get down, but back then if we got down, we wasn't coming back. Now we got an offense that if you get us down 10, 14, 17 points early in the game ain't over. The game ain't over. And so I'm appreciative of the offense that we have now, and I'm happy that Todd's back for a 3rd season. I'm really excited to see what we do. And like he said in the earlier part of this video, what's next? Let's see what's next for this offense. And no matter who's out there, whatever, what 5 linemen out there, no matter what receivers are out there, and we know Derek and Lamar's going to be in the backfield, I think the sky's the limit for this offense. And I'm just speaking on the offense. I don't really know what's going on defensively yet. But I'm speaking for the offense to have all that continuity back, with the exception of what's going to go on up front. Get right back, please. I think we're going to be all right, man. So this is Coach Evans with another episode of Sip the Talent Films. Y'all know how I feel about Todd. I talk about him all the time. I think he's a good dude, a really good coach too as well. So if you like the content, hit that like button. If you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe as well. And hit that bell so you can be notified when the rest of this content drops throughout the 2025 offseason, going into the new league year that starts Wednesday, man. I appreciate y'all. Peace and love, and enjoy the rest of y'all Saturday. Peace.